Charlie from Brand Image Productions. Thank you very much for helping us out in the setup and installation of our video booths. We're going to give a quick demonstration here, and hopefully within a couple of minutes you'll be a trained technician as well. So basically the booth is going to arrive both shrink wrapped and pad wrapped with some blankets. Once you take the blankets and the shrink wrap off, this is what you'll have. Since we have two booths going to each location, one of the booths is going to have this black crate in a box. The second booth is just going to have this black case. The case is tied down with the ratchet strap. Just remove the strap. Simple as that. And then pull the case as well as the box. I'll describe this in a moment. Okay, the next step is to position the booth where you want to have it ultimately, and then take it off the dolly. So what you're going to do is have somebody push the dolly and the whole booth back toward another person, and let the dolly itself come up with the booth. Let it ride up along the floor, and then once it's low enough, pull the dolly out and simply tilt it back up. Once you have the dolly set in place, let's put up what's called the crown graphic. On top of the booth here is a 3/4 inch piece of plywood in the shape of a figure 8, and it's held on here with two screws, two wood screws. That you need to pull out to release this crown. For purpose of the demonstration, I have a crown here that I'll demonstrate. So this piece, this figure 8, without these blocks on top, is what's currently affixed to the top of the booth. So what you'll need to do is take that off, and in this box you'll find the blocks for the crown for this figure 8 for two booths. So here's one, here's two. The blocks and the screws are contained in each bag. So there's a bag for each of the figure 8s. The screws will screw down into threaded inserts, and everything will position itself. There is a faint outline with magic marker on here as well, but I think it'll be pretty self-explanatory. And then what you need to do is take a plexiglass graphic. There's 2 per crown, so there's a total of 4 in here. And to get that in, there's some Velcro on the back here, which attaches to the Velcro on these blocks. You want to start in the very corner, kind of tilt it out a little bit, and slide this into the groove. Push it against this block as far as you can, and then just kind of work it around. The reason you want to keep it at a little bit of an angle is because you don't want the Velcro to catch too prematurely. So once you're about halfway between the two blocks, like about here, you're safe to then lock that down with the Velcro. And then you just repeat the same process for the other half. I'll just show it for demonstration purposes. And again, there's another set of 2 in this box for the other booth. So again, just tilt it back a little bit, get it in the groove, and push it all the way. And once you're about halfway here, you're safe to snap that in. So, what you want to do next is place this back on top. Again, I'm not going to, well, I'll stick it on top of the other one. You can either, if you have a tall ladder and you can sit on top of here, you can position it by looking down on it, or you can kind of do it by feel. If you put your fingers here where the V is, you get it pretty centered, and you can walk around the booth just to make sure. But basically, that's what you want. And again, this bottom piece won't be here because this bottom piece is this piece. And then make sure you put the 2 screws back in. And these are wood screws, so they're going to make their own holes when you screw these in each time. All right, so that's the procedure for the crown graphic. The reason we take the blocks off for shipping is they just get destroyed. So it's just safer to put it in the box. One more thing about the crown, 2 more things actually. One is please make sure you remove the blocks and put them back in the box. Again, as I mentioned before, when these are shipped, if the blocks are on there, they'll get destroyed. And the second thing is that you'll see this piece of wood in the middle. It's actually a little bit asymmetrical. And when you put the crown on the ceiling, back on the roof here, you want the wider part of the wood on the seat side. That way, when you screw in the wood screws, it'll catch at the underneath of this. If you have it reversed, the screws won't catch anything, they'll miss the wood. All right. Okay, the next operation is to put the computer in. So the computer is contained in here amongst some other parts. So just 4 simple latches. Note that the cover has to go on in a specific direction. You can see the slot here is for the keyboard and this side is for the monitor. In other words, it won't go on this way. So the first thing you want to do, well, let me describe what's in here. There's a microphone, a mouse and keyboard, and the mouse has a dongle on the bottom, so if you're missing that, it's probably in the bottom of this little hole. Keyboard, there's a camera. This is the computer and the touchscreen monitor. It's a single unit built together. There's a Verizon MiFi wireless hotspot. Again, there's just going to be one of these that it's going to be shared between the 2 booths. There's a cable for the microphone and a set of tools and some spare screws. So what you want to do is take the tools out, and we're going to remove this plastic bezel as the first step. So you need the 3/8 inch nut driver. And there's 4 studs that are holding this on, so you kind of want to lean against it a little bit so it doesn't fall once you've got all the nuts out. And just be careful, the screws are kind of small here. There's an acorn nut followed by a lock washer, which is important, followed by a fender washer. And if you do happen to lose one of these pieces, they're in the spares container. What I usually do is I leave this top one for last. And it's a good idea to just put the screws on the seat here. So keep a little pressure against it so it doesn't fall off the studs. And then just lift it off. So you can see the 4 studs here. And this is where we're going to place the monitor in a moment and the camera. One thing to note, these are LED lights here, so be careful not to rub up against these. What I do is I just put this on the outside and lean it against the booth. Okay. The next step, we're going to put the camera in. So take the camera out of the case. It's a Logitech camera on a little bracket. There's a screw in the bottom of the bracket. Just undo that screw and let the cable fall. Okay, what you want to do is take this camera. There's a little shelf here in this opening. You want to rest the bracket on the shelf, and there's a slot here, by the way. So you're going to rest this camera bracket on the shelf, and then with this nut that you just removed from the bottom, put it through the slot and screw it in. Now the trick here is there's two tricks. One, you want to pull the camera as far forward, so push the bracket from the back as far forward as you can in the slot. You don't want it back here, but you really actually want to put some pressure on it and put it as far forward as you can. The second thing is there's a cable here. You want to make sure that you're not crimping the cable under the bracket as you tighten this nut down. This has happened on one occasion, and somebody lost the camera, or lost the connection to the camera. So with the 7/16 inch nut driver, again, keeping pressure to keep that all the way forward and making sure it's centered, not angled. You just want to tighten that up. And you want it pretty snug. You then want to angle the camera, or not angle the camera, have it shooting straight out as directly straight as you can. All right, the next step, take the USB cable from the camera, and there's an opening back here. There's actually a sticker that says place camera cable through here, so you just want to place that cable through here and let it drop, and you want to pull it out the front of the booth. Okay. Now if you reach in, you'll find a bundle of cables. Okay, and you kind of want to just join, not physically, but just kind of group together the camera and the other cables that are bundled together in this bundle. This is the set of cables that we're going to plug into the back of the PC. While I'm not juggling the PC, I'll just describe what these are. And the order and the connectors to which these are plugged into make a difference. So please don't mix up the order. Follow what I'm going to describe here, and there's also a picture here of the back of the computer. So the cables are, again, camera, and then there's an audio USB device for recording the voice, so that goes in. There's two panel USB connectors which bring USB out to the front of the booth, and I'll show that in a moment. And then there's a Cat5 internet cable, which we're not going to be using for this application. The last thing is power for the monitor for the computer. So with that bundle, take it and just kind of let it hang down in front of the booth. Make sure your seat's clear. Move your screws up and tools off to the side. And the next thing you want to do is grab the computer. So, and I'm using computer and monitor interchangeably because they're one unit. So you need to be careful with this because there are a lot of panels that slide off of this. So you can't grab it from the top here. This panel will just slide out. What you want to do is grab it toward the bottom and just lift it straight up. Maybe rest it on the case a little bit. And then you really want to grab it from the sides, right about here. These panels also slide off, so you just kind of want to hold it and just walk over to the seat with the screen facing you and just sit in the seat, let it rest on your lap. Pretty easy. Now, it's important that the right computer goes with the corresponding booth. So if you always keep your case with the booth, you shouldn't have any problems, but we definitely don't want to mix them up. So to that end, these are labeled. So you have Boost, and that, by the way, it's the same thing with the camera. The camera is labeled on the top, but if you keep it all together, then you shouldn't have a problem. But as a double check, this booth is Boost B02, which lines up with the sticker here saying Boost B02, which is the same as the camera. Sorry. Okay, so what you want to do, again, with it resting on your knees, you want to undo this power cord or uncoil it. This is the power cord that's actually plugged into the back of the monitor, and you want to connect that to the monitor power in the bundle. And you want to do all this, by the way, with the booth unplugged. You don't have the booth plugged in yet. Okay, now the next thing, and again, here's where order matters, and you can follow this diagram. You want the camera to be directly under the Cat5 connector. So if you could look back here, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it at this angle, but here's the Cat5 connector. So you want the camera, and this is really important that we plug it in this order. So under the Cat5 is the camera, and under the camera is the USB audio device. And next to the camera, to the left as I'm looking down on it, you want to plug in panel USB 1 and underneath that panel USB 2. And again, we're not using the Cat 5 cable, and we've already done the monitor power. Okay, now I turned at an angle to do this, but you would obviously just be doing it facing straight on. Then what you want to do is take the remaining slack. Most of the slack is in the power cord. And what we're going to do is we're going to lift this up and engage this bracket on the back of the monitor into these slots here. There's 4 slots. And you kind of get a feel for it. Just go in straight. What's critically important is that you don't crush any of these cables in the process. So put all your slack back in, and then lift the computer again from its sides, putting a little pressure on here, because again these panels can slide off. So lift it, and then kind of look back to make sure that your cables all are clear. And then you can actually see the top connection being made, and you just let it fall, and it's in. And one test I do to make sure that it's not hung up is I run my finger under here. There's some feet on the bottom of the computer, and you can feel them at the same level. And that's pretty much it. So just to summarize a lot of talking here, what we did is we took the computer out. We took the camera out first. We installed the camera, and it has to go in that order. The camera has to go first. Then we took the computer out, made the connections for the camera, the audio USB, the 2 panel USBs, and the power for the monitor. We hung the monitor up, making sure we weren't crimping any cables behind it. And also, when we were putting the camera in, we made sure that we didn't crimp the cable as we were tightening the bracket down. All right, so that's all there is there. And again, just as a reminder, make sure that your camera is straight on, that it's not angled down or angled up. Okay, so once that's done, we can put our bezel back up. So again, just reverse the process we described before. One thing you might want to just double check, the foam tape back here, depending upon the heat, sometimes lifts a little bit, so you might just want to tuck that down. So place that on the 4 studs again. Sometimes it's easy if you kind of start at an angle a little bit. Of course, always easier to do it than to talk about it. Again, keep some pressure here so it doesn't drop, and get it on the other remaining studs. And then just screw it back on. So again, the order is fender washer, followed by lock washer. And these lock washers are important, especially in shipping, because we don't want the nut to vibrate off and drop this plexi on the floor. You can just thumb tighten them to start. I've included several spares. They're not only easy to drop, they're easy to lose. Okay, so once they're all finger tightened, what you want to do is snug them down. Don't overly tighten them, but actually give them a bit of a snugging, and especially when you're packing up for the final time, give them a pretty good tightening. Next thing we want to do is let's take out the microphone and the cable. So here's the mic. It's a Shure 58 microphone, and the cable. So just make sure that when you snap the cable into the bottom of the mic that it clicks. And pretty straightforward. And then you plug the mic into this. Under the 2 USB ports, there's an XLR port for the microphone. And this, by the way, also clicked in here. And to remove it, there's a little tab. You have to push the tab in. It's just a kind of a one motion thing. Push the tab in with your thumb, and that'll release the cable. All right, and there's a handy little microphone holder here. The one external thing we need to do is to plug in and turn on the MiFi. And I would suggest that you do that prior to turning on the booth, maybe even a couple of minutes prior to. Let this power up and get signal. just gets around some of the finicky things with wireless. So this MiFi device is a 4G hotspot. I've programmed in for your specific 2 booths the security code, so when the booths come up, they should just see this and connect automatically. There is an LED display on here that gives you some stats and usage information, battery life, but I think you should just be all set. If you see a green flashing light here, you're pretty much good to go. So one thing you want to do is make sure you have power to this, because it burns through this battery pretty quickly. So there's just a USB charger here, and put it somewhere in proximity of the booth if you can. And the power switch is here. It's obvious. Just hold the power switch in. It takes a little while to boot up. All right. So once that's all set, go ahead and plug in the booth. Let me grab some power. The booth will power on automatically once power is applied. So there's a boot process that takes a few minutes. Note that the lights are on, so if you don't have light, there's an issue. You'll see this screen because the way you power this down is you basically pull the power on, pull the power on the plug. So it'll count down. Just let it do its thing, and don't touch anything. It's not very exciting, but it does take a couple of minutes to come up. And again, presuming that you had your Wi-Fi, the MiFi device turned on, as this is coming up, it'll pick up that hotspot because it's set to connect automatically. Which I do not have right now for the demonstration, by the way. Okay, and if everything's successful, then it's going to come up with this, what we call an attract loop. It's this quick little loop that runs repeatedly until someone gets in the booth to use it. The first time the machine comes up from a fresh boot, you're going to see something down in the tray here, but the system tray, but just ignore it. If you touch the screen,
read the terms and conditions carefully.
It'll go to the next screen, and those icons will disappear.
To cancel this session.
So what's important to note here is that you're hearing sound. So you're hearing the instructions with the voice talent, and that the touch screen is being responsive. So if I touch I do not agree to the terms and conditions, it'll go back to that initial loop. I can walk you through the process quickly here.
Please read the terms and conditions
screen.
And touch I agree to accept. Welcome to the Wish Fulfillment Center. Please state your wish. Wishes will be judged on creativity, verbal expression, and appeal. Wish prizes will be granted in the form of a $500 gift card. Please touch the screen to begin.
So the 30 seconds they're going to have 30 seconds to record their video. That's a long time, so people can stop it prior to 30 seconds if they want.
So please pick up the microphone located to your right and hold it close to your mouth. Touch record to begin recording. Touch stop to end recording. The stopwatch displays the available recording time. Remember, look up at the camera and speak clearly.
So make sure that the participant picks up the mic. You want them to hold it, a couple inches from their mouth. I find that a lot of people like to sit a bit forward in the seat, not way back, but kind of, just at the edge of the seat. Frames them nicely.
Touch the screen now.
And there's a timeout screen that's if you're sitting there not doing anything, or you walked away from the booth, after 30 seconds the screen comes up and asks if you need more time. And that happens on any screen.
The stopwatch displays the available recording time. Remember, look up at the camera and speak clearly.
So if somebody starts a session, or they decide they want to start over, they got in the middle of it and they want to start over, they have to wait 30 seconds. It'll ask if they need more time. If you don't touch the screen for another 15 seconds, it'll go back to that initial loop, back to the beginning.
Touch the screen now. Please pick up the microphone located to your right and hold it close to your mouth.
So you hit record.
Get ready. 3,
gives a little countdown.
2, 1, action.
And then the timer displays the available recording time. But you really want people to look up at the camera, because if they're staring at the the stopwatch, they're not looking and the video isn't as good. So testing 1, 2, 3, hello, hello, test 1, 2. I can stop the video, prior to the end of my recording time.
Touch play to view your video.
And then I have the option to play it, accept it, or reject it. So I can just accept it if I'm happy with it. If I know I didn't like it, I don't even have to play it first. I can just reject and redo it, or I can play it. So I'm going to accept it just to move forward.
Enter your first and last name. Use the backspace key to
we
make
prompt them to
corrections.
enter their name.
For uppercase.
I'll just put my first name.
Enter your email address. Please
and
note
email address.
Your email will be used to
and by
send
the way,
you a link to your video, and also to contact you if you're a winner. Use the backspace key to make corrections. For uppercase, touch and release the shift key, followed by a character or symbol key. Touch continue when finished. So we have at gmail.com and at yahoo.com programmed in here. The other thing is if somebody wants to shift, do an uppercase, it's hit shift first and then the next character will be affected. So sometimes some people try to do both at the same time and that does not work. So please fill in the information above to submit your wish. Use the up and down arrows on the keyboard to choose a line. Touch continue when finished. So here we're asking for phone number, date of birth, and are you currently a Boost Mobile customer? So whatever they type in here, they can move to the next line by hitting the down arrow. And if they made a mistake, they can go back up. So, and then once they're happy with it, they hit continue. Thank you for visiting the Wish Fulfillment Center. And remember, the wish of affordable 4G has been granted by the Boost 4 Genie. A link to your video will be sent to you within 24 hours. If you don't receive it, please check your spam folder. Please step out of the booth and enjoy the rest of your day. And that's it. So the next person in line can go. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to walk through the setup via cell phone with each of you when you guys are going to do this. Even though you have this instructional video, we just feel more comfortable. We give support on the phone, so I'll kind of be on standby while you go through the steps, and I'm going to have you actually send a video, and we'll watch it come through to our servers, through the Wi-Fi, through the MiFi, just to make sure everything is working. And we also, keep track of that periodically through the day to make sure that transactions are coming through. So at the end of the night, when you're done, it would be good to know that the transactions are all out, because we don't want to pull the power while transactions are still going. So we'll have you record one final video, and then we'll watch for it. And when we see that come through, we know that you're the last one in line and we've got everything. So I think that's the safest way to know that we've got everything before you power down. But once you are finished, and we do see that video here, you simply just pull the plug. So there you go. What we want to do now is talk about how to pack up the booth, which essentially is the reverse process of what we did before. The crown graphic, you'll take the crown you'll take down, you'll remove those 6 blocks, put them in the bag, store the plexiglass. You'll take off this bezel plate, lift out the monitor, again just the reverse process, so put your hands on either side and lift it straight up. Sometimes it can be a little difficult if you're at an angle or anything, so you just really want to lift it straight up. Pull the cable bundle out without bending things too much. Rest it on your knees again and remove the cables. Put the cables back in the cable bundle back inside the machine. It's important that you remove the camera. You don't want to ship this machine with the camera in, so you want to pull that camera USB cable that we snuck through the back, pull that out and wrap that up and store that in the case. Take the microphone out, store that in the case. The keyboard and the mouse dongle, put that in the case, make sure they're off. You want to put tighten your bezel down here, make sure it's good and snug. And put your tools and this cable back in the case, and I think you'll have everything. Also your MiFi, and make sure you get the MiFi device and the plug for that. And then you'll be good to go.
We're now going to show how to put the booth back on the dolly. It's just the reverse of the procedure for taking it off. Have someone push it back. And again, there's a V. You can see the white V that fits within the V of the bottom of the booth. Hold the dolly up against the bottom of the booth and then just lift it up. Pretty simple. I showed before in a previous video how to put the dolly, booth back on the dolly by tilting it forward and then sliding the dolly underneath, tied up against the floor, and then straighten it up once that white object comes through the V. Then you want to put the road case. The road case will either go in the middle if you don't have the extra box for the crown graphics. It'll go in the middle of the floor. For the case where you have the crown graphics, you want to put the road case against the diamond plate of the seat. You don't want it rubbing up against the powder coated paint. And then just slide in the box with the graphics and push the case against it, and then strap the case down. And what's critical is when you strap the case down, you want that strap to go completely under the dolly. You want to ratchet that down so the case shouldn't be moving at all, but the dolly is tightly attached. And then you want to shrink wrap the booth, or whoever's picking the booth up needs to really shrink wrap it to protect this plexi before they blanket wrap it, because blankets can scratch the plexi. So you want to put a coat of shrink wrap around it, then blanket wrap it, and then shrink wrap it again. And that's the best way to transport this. Alrighty. Again, if you have any questions, 978-505-5080. I work 24/7.